It's usually the small things in a financial and retirement plan that make the biggest difference. So today I want to share some tips and tricks with you. As someone that builds financial plans day in and day out for 20 years, I've seen every single situation under the sun. I want to give you 4 tips today to help you make better decisions as you enter into retirement, things that your retirement and financial plan should have. And I have one bonus tip at the end, so stay tuned for that. Retirement planning tip number 1 is know when you can retire. And I just completed my phone calls for the day. I do about 4 to 5 phone calls on every Monday, Wednesday. And I just finished mine for the day, and all 4 people had no idea when they could retire. But that was the main reason they were contacting me. They were asking, Adam, I need a financial plan put together so that if I get fired tomorrow, if I get frustrated with my job or anything happens, I know if I can retire or if I need to continue to work. So I tell everyone on the phone or anyone that we work with that the one thing you want to do is retire once. You don't want to retire twice. And not many of you will have to, but there's going to be some of you that watch this video. You'll retire, you'll start going through retirement, and it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road that you realize, I pulled the pin a little bit too early and I got to get back to work. And we have a couple clients that we're working with right now that have retired, and the reality is setting in for them that they're probably going to have to go back to work at least part-time and earn a bit more income, or they're going to run into a bit of cash flow troubles down the road. So again, before you pull the trigger and retire, make sure that you understand, if you can, how much money where it comes from, all of that fun stuff before you actually hand in your resignation letter. The next tip and thing you need to have is a proper tax plan. And 95% of retirement plans are missing this. And it sounds like it should be built into every plan, but it's not. I see financial plans from many different financial institutions, big names, small names, doesn't matter where it comes from. They're bad plans. And a lot of the time, a financial plan that is delivered to you as a client is your information put into software the planner hits generate and gives it to you. Planning software isn't built to optimize for tax. It's built to have the tax system in the software, and that's it. But your situation's different than the next person. So how does that kind of play out? Well, you need manual entry and manual data working in the background. And so when you look at a tax plan, how would you know if your financial and retirement plan is a good tax plan? And the first place to start, look at your average tax rate or your effective tax rate, and it should be fairly level. And so if you have an average tax rate of, let's say, 15%, it should stay within about 2 to 3% of that right through retirement. What you don't want to see and where bad tax plans is when your tax rate or your average tax rate goes like this. It's up and down all around. I talk to a lot of people and they say, Adam, I have a great retirement plan. I've been retired for 3 years and I haven't paid any tax. And I think, you know what? That's the worst plan you could ever have, because eventually you need to pay the tax and it's going to be a lot higher. And I know that because I've done hundreds of these plans. And anytime I see a plan with 0 tax and then tax that is eventually going to have to come no matter what, you end up paying more and it's a rougher ride. So a good tax plan, a good retirement tax plan, is a fairly level, effective or average tax rate right through retirement. Before I jump into the next two, I just want to remind you, I do have a bonus one at the end, and we've also launched a second channel. So we have a second YouTube channel that's geared more for the 18 to 20-year-old, all the way up to 45, 50, kind of at the stage of life where you're building wealth, you're paying off debt, you're raising kids, you have a mortgage, all that kind of stuff. We've launched a full second channel. We'll link that below. Again, this channel is more for retirement planning and tax and estate and all that kind of stuff, kind of later in life, if you're 5 to 10 years-ish or closer to retirement, or maybe even in retirement already. The fourth retirement planning tip I have for you is ladder your income. And what I mean by this is taking more money earlier and less money later. Now, why it's important to have a financial plan that actually maps this out for you, because a lot of fear for every retiree, and I would be the same way if I didn't have a plan, is I'm gonna hold my money a little bit tighter, closer to the chest, because I don't wanna spend it all because I'm worried about running out later on. And that's a valid fear. We do not want to run out of money in our 70s and 80s and be left, on the street. So what we do is we hold it tighter earlier. And that's the worst thing to do, because those are the years that you can actually travel and do stuff and spend money and enjoy it. And then what happens is we hold it too tight to the chest, not realizing that we could be spending it. We get to later in retirement and we have too much. So by building a plan And this is a big tip for you. Make sure your advisor is doing this for you. And if they're not, ask them to do this. Is, look, I want a bit more money now, and then a bit less, and then a bit less, because that's how you're going to spend it. Now, a lot of you push back and say, Adam, that last phase, so the go-go, slow-go, no-go, that no-go phase of retirement, that's when I'm going to be in a care facility, and that's actually going to be the most expensive part of life. The reality is most of you won't go to a care facility. Some of you might go for a very short period of time, but this is where I kind of push back and say, if you own real estate, try to keep that real estate as kind of the buffer in your plan. If you need a care facility or in-home care, there's that asset there to lean on. Again, everyone's comfort level of how this builds into the plan is going to be different. So work with your advisor to work through this process and find a comfort level for you. But make sure that you build a plan where you're spending more earlier, showing you that peace of mind and comfort that you're going to have enough later on in life so that you can spend comfortably early on. The fourth tip for a really good retirement plan, and I just kind of mentioned it, was make sure you keep your house as a buffer within the plan. And that doesn't mean you have to keep, the family home that you grew up in. It just means, sure, you can downsize, but if you can keep a bit of real estate in your plan, you don't have to rent. I don't like, unless you have to, prefer not to rent in retirement. A lot of people say, Adam, I'm going to sell my house and rent in retirement. And there's a lot of drawbacks to that. You lose control of where you live. You might get kicked out later on. You lose cost of control. If you can continue to own at some capacity, that's the best thing. I know that's not the reality for everyone watching this video. You may have to rent financially, and that's okay. But if you don't have to rent, I encourage you to try and keep ownership of a property. That gives you a bit more stability and control in the later years of life where you don't want to be, kicked out and have to move and change and all that. It's really tough. I've seen it happen. It's really tough on elderly people. Secondly, if you need a bit of money for in-home care, a care facility, anything like that, you have that asset kind of buffer in the background to help you afford to pay for those types of things. So it might be a downsize, it might be kind of a one-step downsize, but if you can move from like a house to a condo or whatever it is, try and keep some sort of real estate that has value to it. It'll just kind of create that bit of a buffer for you in your retirement plan. And the bonus retirement tip today, and this is really important, we're actually going to do a full video on this in a couple days from now, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit the notification bell on the channel, subscribe to the channel. But it's understanding your income sources. And for many of you, I would say most of you watching this video, you don't have a full grasp on your income sources. Where it comes from, when you can start it, how much it's going to be, all the rules around it. You need to understand this. So start digging into it. Again, we're going to do a full video on this. I'll give you some more tips and tricks on what to look at, things to consider, where to start looking to understand these things. You need to understand every single source of income, the tax liability of each one, how they all work together to make sure that you have a really good and smooth retirement plan as you head into retirement.